Hi, everybody. You are listening to another episode of Cloud and Clear. That's SADA's Cloud Transformation Podcast. I am your host. I'm Miles Ward. And today I am very pleased to welcome co-worker and friend Rob Green, who is Chief Digital Officer at Insight. That's a big gig. Welcome to the show, Rob. Before we get started, though, little housekeeping. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date with all the latest Cloud and Clear episodes from SADA. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Miles, thank you. Pleasure to be here. And I have to tell you, this is my very first podcast.
What?
What? Yes. So, I mean, I've listened to many podcasts and I've done presentations on small stages and big stages. I've never actually done a podcast. So I'm thrilled to be here and have a chance to become a podcaster.
Here you are. You're moving into a new generation of technical delivery. You're connecting with audiences where they want to be connected with. I'm excited to be your first. It's going to be a glorious thing.
I'm so thrilled to be here and look forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Well, Chief Digital Officer, as far as I know, does not mean that you are actually composed exclusively of zeros and ones. Could you maybe break down for folks, what does that role mean? How does Insight put you to work?
Yeah, I only think in Boolean logic.
Trues, false.
Yeah. So no, but yeah, happy to share a little bit about sort of my portfolio. And I've been privileged to be part of the Insight family for just over 3 years. And over the course of my tenure with Insight, sort of my portfolio has shifted, expanded. And so what it currently encompasses is really focused on both our external facing platforms. We've kind of got 3 distinct customer facing platforms. We've got an e-commerce engine, we've got a cloud commerce engine, and we've got a managed services platform. And together, those kind of make up our digital engagement platform for our customers. And then I also get the privilege of working with our internal IT team and focused on our internal infrastructure, our core financial systems, our HR systems, increasingly some Gen AI systems and capabilities. And so broadly, that's what my portfolio encompasses here at Insight.
So you showed to the episode without the 74 hats that you are wearing during the day, because that's a lot of remit, man.
There's plenty to do, but as you know, it's really fun. We get to innovate, we get to experiment, and yes, we got to keep all the critical systems running every day and make sure that we can transact and we can engage and we can reconcile and all of those good things. But boy, I really enjoy the opportunity to work with this team and work with Insight and work with folks like you.
Oh, that's awesome. Keeping the lights on is totally critical, especially when these new light bulb ideas are creating so much opportunity. I know a lot of our listeners, if this is your first podcast, this is going to be the first time they've ever heard this phrase, generative AI. And I suspect, since it's their very first time, they may not be aware that we're, obviously totally entrenched in this topic. We're spending, a lot of time thinking through this and helping our customers and our internal users be successful with those tools. Both of our roles, my role, I know yours, is super oriented around helping our customers leverage all of this new technology with generative AI kind of out at the forefront right now. Can you kind of unpack, why? There's a lot of noise about this idea, but I think people are trying to understand, what this unlocks, what it enables for employees.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of why around generative AI. There's a lot of what, there's a lot of how as well. And look, I won't wax too philosophical here. You still have your youth. I'm a little longer in the tooth. And if you think back, if I think back to sort of the start of my career, it was a case that not everyone had a desktop computer on their desktop. And then as we got desktops and then we got laptops and then we connected them together with these great things called networks. And then, we distributed the computing and so on and so on. It drove massive productivity gains. It drove productivity gains in the office, on the shop floor. I mean, the way that the distributed computing got leveraged was massively impactful. And if you think, for those who are old enough to think back to the 90s, the productivity gains we saw in the US economy and the global economy were astounding. And I kind of think Gen AI is going to be that impactful and that meaningful. I think that we're going to see productivity gains at least commensurate with what we saw back in that decade and even more. And of course, it wasn't just in the 90s. We've continued to layer on productivity gains with innovation and technology advancements. But Gen AI feels like a game changer. It feels like one of those generational shifts. And I think we're going to see many, many applications. But in the role that I'm in here at Insight, one of the areas that we focus on is how do we leverage Gen AI to drive improved employee engagement, improved partner engagement, improved client engagement. And we've been focused on leveraging some of the capabilities that we've gained to improve our employee experience. So, for example, we're about to start our benefits enrollment period here coming up in October.
Right.
And naturally, a lot of employees have lots of questions about, well, what's changed? What's new? What should I invoke? And so, we've introduced agents that will help guide our employees through that process, so they can ask the AI agent, questions about our benefits. So one example that improves the employee experience, as you're aware, trying to help our sales team, we take a lot of stuff to market, right? We work with a
Oh yeah.
lot of partners who have a lot of great technology, and we're privileged to be partners with a lot of leaders in the technological area. But with that comes a lot of complexity, and demystifying that for our sales team is challenging. And your team has done a great job with a tool that we've deployed internally, which is effectively a sales advisor, right? Our sales team can
Oh
ask
yeah. You're talking sales discovery. Yeah. This is
sales discovery.
there's a lot there where I think for a lot of our employees and a lot of customers that are in the same position, that have enterprise sellers that are trying to connect with customers, that everybody feels like their product suite has too many SKUs in it. There's too much stuff to understand. You're trying to boil through all the noise. Like, you can't have every one of your folks read all of the manuals of all the products and memorize all of them and prepare to answer all of the questions that come from customers left and right. So we did spend some cycles in a way that I think is important for our listeners to understand. Like, there are parts of generative AI that are just features that are going to show up in products you already have. So all of a sudden you can ask for Gemini to summarize what's in your spreadsheet, or you can go to OpenAI and have it give you a rundown of what's in your email, or you can interoperate between these different tools. Those are going to be really easy to adopt. The next level of complexity there is really building new applications, new interfaces that bring together information from all of those upstream sources so that you can find this stuff faster. There is no employee in any role anywhere who says they have everything they need at their fingertips. And the more we can start to fill those gaps, the better, I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, look, it's um, driving employee engagement is I look at that as one of the responsibilities in the role that I'm in and of our team. And so anything we can do to help improve the employee experience through leveraging innovation, technology, Gen AI, obviously we want to invest in that. Big question that comes with that typically when you're making these investments is, what's the ROI? And there's myriad ways you can think about it, measuring that, but one that we focus in on is our at least on an annual basis, we administer a pulse survey to our employees and measure employee satisfaction. One of the things that we've seen resoundingly is feedback on our ability to better serve our employees through the agents and bots that we've deployed.
Yeah, the co-pilot pattern, right? I was talking with another buddy of mine, Gene Kim, where he was worried about kind of think the experience of junior sellers, where there's a bunch of ads now about AI salespeople, and the experience of junior developers. You're not going to need junior developers there. You're going to have AI sales, AI development teams. I think my expectation is that in exactly the same way as this stuff allows senior people to do magic that they couldn't do before. Wow, you can go super fast. It is an incredible tool for upskilling junior people. and riding along with them, helping them act like they just got a promotion, right? So if you're a brand new junior salesperson, you don't know the names of all these products.
Yeah.
Customers are asking you for like totally, and like, frankly, the names of this stuff are bizarre enough, right? Like, I want to run ScyllaDB in Kubernetes, with a Kafka node, and I want to make sure that I dump all that into the Datadog. Like, come on, man. Like, how are you supposed to keep this stuff all straight?
Yeah.
So, just helping every one of it, and I'm talking about a tool, that we built for sellers, but it really doesn't matter, right? Every role where you have a volume of work to do, and that there's room to help coach and mentor and support and back up and give examples to, all of that stuff these tools do really well.
Yeah.
So we've been working with a lot of teams to think through if sales discovery is the one that helps sellers, how do we help all the rest of the roles?
Yeah, exactly. And you think about, what is Gen AI good at now? What are these LLMs really good at right now? I'm dumbing it down a little bit, but answering questions of increasing complexity. And so we're really leaning into, okay, what kind of return can we get right now from the capabilities, from the technology? And this is going to get better and better, of course. We're going to see massive innovation here as we go forward. But, leveraging the capabilities that are available to us now is really important.
A question I have for you, in this kind of vein, I think a lot, you kind of a role that sort of sits broadly in the IT part of many businesses. And so many of our customers think of that as a cost center. And so the big evidence of return is that your costs have come down. So,
Yeah.
maybe if I can make a junior salesperson behave like a senior salesperson, close deals like a senior salesperson, that would be a great way of reducing costs, because I'm spending less on total comp. I think of it as somebody who's been on the front side of businesses for a long time, as a thing where the return I want is to grow the top line. I want us to capture bigger customers that we couldn't get before. I want to be able to bring that revenue in earlier. I want to be able to, pitch for business that's a little beyond the stuff that we've already taken on, because it's easier for us to assemble that evidence. How do you balance the investments at Insight in these technologies from a bottom line fixing or a top line fixing approach?
Yeah. Boy, that's a great question. And I would just say, in response to your point about, yes, historically, IT teams have been looked at more from a cost center standpoint. The way I've generally framed it for our team is that we're an investment center. I think, to your point, we've got to look at it as, okay, what can we do to optimize the bottom line or drive the top line? But the decisions that we make are decisions about constrained optimization and investment driving return. And we have a lot of opportunity to drive process efficiency, ongoing, improvement in our processes. I'd love to say that we've fully automated every process internally. No organization, no large organization can claim that. No small organization likely can claim that either. But we're constantly looking for opportunities to drive process efficiency. And my earlier point about looking across sort of the internal functions of HR, finance, client operations, we're looking for ways to reduce the complexity of the process. And again, Gen AI has proved to be a great tool to leverage in that way. But the top line is vital as well. And, I think about the wealth of information that we have about our clients, like, again, like most organizations. We should leverage that for the benefit of our clients and for the benefit of our sales teams to add value in the engagements that they have with our clients. So leveraging, GPT capabilities to do things like figure out what is the next best action for our sales team, or what is the next best solution they should be proposing to our customer, or how do we help them generate a statement of work that is refined so that we don't have to go through and have 72 rounds of red lines with the customer. Those types of things are areas where we're investing to improve the team experience, the client experience. And again, leaning into the capabilities that are available to us now from an LLM standpoint, from a Gen AI standpoint. So at a high level, that's kind of how we think about the investment profile.
Same way as we're watching a lot of businesses, thinking of this as trying to give a bunch of their employees, kind of an in-place promotion. They're capable of the things their bosses were capable of before. Another way to think of it is, that we've seen be really valuable with customers is this. I think all of us have an idea of the actions we would take or the proposals that we would make if we had a fuller sense of the context that's available. The LLMs end up talking about this context window thing all the time, but it's also true for people, right? Like how much of the information that this business actually has someplace, maybe on tape, maybe in some weird archive in the middle of nowhere, maybe scratched on a notepad underneath somebody's desk, but that information, if brought into concert in this opportunity, maybe makes it more valuable to the customer, a clearer path to value and utility. So that's where I think, the LLM tools as search and summary support, right? A system for making it so that it's easier to find more of that context, because you're right, you're never going to be done with this stuff. Somebody's going to still have some important thing sticking on a notepad underneath their desk, and it will not have been reduced to a digital environment so that our digital officer can make it available. But there's a lot where pulling that context in, one of the tools we built internally on our side called Stark, not only composes SOWs using an LLM technique to kind of propose what elements are most likely to be used, but is showing you in the corner how many times that element was in a profitable deployment, right? There's this extra context that lets you go, oh yeah, I definitely need to use that section. So it's, I think there's a lot of our customers that are asking questions, not just of like, to understand all the use cases, what are the things that this stuff is capable of, but I'm hoping about like, how are they capable of taking advantage of all those tools? So maybe we can talk a bit about how customers get ready for all this change. You've been leading change at Insight. Maybe help us with, what resources they need to have ready, what things need to be prioritized as they want to dive into this innovative space.
Yeah. Well, so I think at a fundamental level, it comes down to the data that feeds the capability, right? I mean, you just made the point about relevance, and if you've got irrelevant data feeding a model, you're going to get irrelevant output. I'll give you a specific example. Again, I talked about use the benefits example, not to beat that too much, but if you're feeding the agent that is answering questions about benefits with information from 5 years ago and policies that have been deprecated, you're going to get irrelevant responses to your customer. And why do I know that? Well, we learned kind of the hard way. We realized we had to go clean up our data estate in certain areas to make sure that the outputs that we were driving were meaningful and relevant. And so whether that's, in the benefits arena, whether it's in the client operations arena, whether that's in the sales arena, you've got to make sure that you've got a data estate that is current and relevant. And that sounds straightforward as it's really hard. In large organizations with a lot of history, you've got to have both sort of the governance in place. You also have to have the policies, right? One of the things that we leaned into really early on was ensuring that we had basically an appropriate use policy in place for GPT engines. Because we were very nervous early on, like many were, that we would have sensitive data escape out into the wild, and so the policy was really important. Education around the policy was really important, driving sort of adherence to it. But then from there, it was like, all right, let's get our data estate in order. And that's not just sort of our structured data, right? A lot of that is the unstructured data that lives out in SharePoint sites and what have you. And so I think if I were to offer any sort of encouragement, it's just, make sure that you've got a focus on aligning the data usage, the data governance, and the data cleanliness, because that's going to drive the relevant outcomes that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, we have a lot of companies that have asked us, about, kind of how to think about that governance problem, right? It seems canonically like one of those things where you could you're never going to be quite done, and you can spend an infinite amount on it. And like it's kind of like, if the dentist tells you you're supposed to floss your teeth 4 times a day, is that really the right recommend? Like, how does that correlate with tooth decay, right? So
Yeah.
one framing we've used a lot is, many companies have and enjoy a human resources department that has a whole strategy about how you're going to retain people, how you bring them into the business, what's the process for caring for them as their employees, how do you know when they're in trouble, how do you bring them back into performance, what do we, how do we afford each of them, what is the sort of model for vending value.
Yeah.
Thinking of a data resources department in the same sense, how do I onboard a new piece of data? What's the little checklist for every data that comes in the door? What's their first 30 days as a new piece of data look like? How do you hang on to one? What are you required to do by law associated with said data? What are the rules that you can't do incorrectly, right? Like, a lot of the sort of metaphors translate, and that can help you think through, because I don't think any company feels like they have a perfect HR department where they've checked every single box, but they're making sound risk management decisions about the prioritization of the work that needs to be done to create the most utility for the most employees at as cost efficient a way as you can. Thinking forward like that, like how many businesses have to deal with what I think for many of them will feel like a pretty incredible amount of change, and a rate of change which is only accelerating. What do you see coming next for customers? How can they get ahead? How can they anticipate as they approach solving problems with all these new tools?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the areas that we're focused on, well, we do a lot of work internally. We do a lot of development internally. We also, of course, work with a number of package solutions, whether it's in CRM or their ERP space, warehouse management. And, I think what I anticipate is that the investments that we're seeing a lot of these vendors make in their AI capabilities are really going to help drive, whether it's agents or bots or um, other types of mechanisms they infuse into their solutions that help guide both decision making as well as process efficiency. I think that we're likely to see massive investment there and real returns. I think about our CRM platform, for example, and the AI capabilities are getting infused in there that are helping to um, helping our sales teams assess their pipeline, the quality of the pipeline, and which opportunities are more likely to close within a time frame in which they want them to close. Those are capabilities I think that we'll likely see mature in these solutions going forward, and I think that will, tied back to what I was talking about earlier, really help drive productivity gains, whether it's in the sales force and the client operations team and the HR and finance teams. I don't think any surface area in our digital platforms is immune from that. I think we're going to see a lot of capabilities introduced there. So that's where I think we're going to see a meaningful acceleration in the capabilities that are enabled by Gen AI.
One of the I agree with you on bots, right? Like, you were talking about olden days, we used to have computers, full-time human employees that did mathematics, and we figured out how to just have a machine exactly do that work.
Yeah.
And it was quite a useful invention indeed. Like, one of the things that I'm expecting, humans are very varied, right? There are some of us that are visual learners, others are experience based practice learners, some want to be coached, some learn by teaching. And my expectation is that the multimodality, the fluency with which these tools cross those modes is so high that we're going to get to a much more targeted experience on a per user, per customer, per leader basis. So, I have a couple of my employees that they want to listen to podcasts just like this. They are auditory learners. They want to go to class and have the professor explain it, and then they'll be able to figure out what's going on. And so there's a new tool from Google called Notebook LLM that takes kind of any input, right? Like a big code repository, or one of the Shakespeare's plays, not a billion characters of context, but less than a million characters of context. And it doesn't summarize it. It produces a podcast just like this one, describing the content in a pretty engaging way. I find it gobsmacking. Like it's literally uncanny. It's on the far side of the uncanny valley. It just sounds like two smart people like us talking shop about how this given thing works, but you can feed it the driest, most awful subject matter, right? This is the 10Q filing from a, super slow business. Now, like, let's have two smart people crack jokes about it and understand what's going on inside the company. It's really a pretty incredible tool. And I think that will allow us, it's one example of the kinds of technologies that will allow us to meet our employees and our customers where they are, bring all of this information closer to them.
Right. I mean, I think it goes to the point you made earlier, like it's going to make us all smarter. If we want it to, if we let it make us smarter,
right?
So, the point about the 10Qs, 10Ks, SEC filings, right? So for our sales team members who are engaging with customers, who should understand our customers' business at a detailed level, right? Those types of capabilities will make them smarter about our clients and the challenges and the opportunities that they're facing, and that's just going to be a huge win. Both for our sales teams as well as for adding value to customers. And so a huge win for the customers as well.
So out there in the audience, if you're listening in and you made it through what was Rob's first podcast and maybe one of the last all human podcasts of all time, if this stuff is interesting to you, you have an incredible team at SADA and an Insight. Super, super excited about diving in with you on these problems. Eager to do that across whatever part of your cloud estate you're installed in any of the different business units. Just eager to trying to find, the ROI for your project. Big thank you to Rob for unpacking his role and the work that Insight's doing in this area. And thank you to the audience for checking in. Any last words you want to leave folks with, Rob?
Miles, I'm going to say for my first podcast experience, you've been a great host. Thank you. I hope I have the opportunity to do this again. I hope I get invited back. And just echo that sentiment that you shared with the audience. We've got a great powerhouse in a combination of SADA and Insight, and we're here to support you in any way we can. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks, Rob. It's peanut butter and jelly. It's perfect together. I'm super excited about what's next for all of us. And everybody in the audience, thank you for taking all the time. We'll see you on the next Cloud and Clear.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @Cloud and Clear and our website, sada.com.